Hey everyone, I am Raghav, as known by the common folk, or Anorak in the world of D&D, and welcome to the Infinite Tavern podcast. So I am one of your hosts, and I think I do have my co-host with me.
Hello, hello. My name is Amaan, also known as Amaan HK because that is part of my surname. Um, Welcome to the Infinite Tavern podcast. Here we're gonna talk about D&D, about TTRPGs in general, and just gonna discuss, talk, and
Well,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, we'll be discussing about Dungeons and Dragons. Obviously, you look at the logo of
Obviously.
our tavern and you see the D20 over there. And along with that, we'll be talking about other TTRPGs, because other than Dungeons and Dragons, I also play Call of Cthulhu, or you also play Candela Obscura.
Yeah.
And yeah, and with the new Baldur's Gate 3 game, gaining popularity, we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about other, D&D news, some mechanics, and we might even play some games.
We'll come around to that eventually. Just a short introduction. Anurag runs a D&D server called the Infinite Tavern, and it's also on the Infinite Tavern is also on Twitch, where different TTRPGs, including D&D, majorly D&D, is streamed for as an actual play series. And what I do is basically I make D&D content in Hindi in Instagram, and I also sometimes play games on Twitch.
Yeah, well, we'll be putting all those links in the description, and we'll also have those links up in our Instagram as well. But before we go into what Infinite Tavern is, I think it's best we, talk about who we are. So, to talk about myself, I am Raghav, or Anorak, better known as Anorak in the tavern. I've been playing D&D for like 2 years now. It's almost three, I guess. I started in 2021, by just nagging my friends into playing D&D, and I've been more into being a dungeon master than just being a player. Something about being a dungeon master, control, getting people to just fear my power, if you could call that. Basically, just writing stories and plot twists and all those. The creative part was, it was more appealing to me than just playing. So yeah,
Got
that's
that.
why I loved DMing more. And right now I am an always DM running around three campaigns, two set in my homebrew world called Axel Dawn. But more on that, in the future episodes. We'll be talking about Axel Dawn definitely, because I'm not refraining from that. But yeah, enough about me. Aman, please go ahead.
I mean, it's crazy. Whenever I hear people talk about them running like 3, 4 campaigns simultaneously, I'm just like blown away because I just don't have, and for some reason, I'm not able to comprehend that in itself. It's like reading 3, 4 novels at the same time for me. Uh, but yeah, coming to novels, like I'm a huge fantasy and like a reader type of nerd, and I've ever since the school days I've consumed fantasy novels, games, series, uh, you know, incrementally as the years have went by, and I got into D&D way before by like I accidentally wandered into it because me and my friends, all of us who are fantasy nerds, we literally came up with like a homebrew sort of a world. Each came up with a character. We each came up with their powers, their classes, their backgrounds, and all of that thing. And we literally role played without even knowing that we were role playing or creating a sort of a D&D sort of world. And that was around 2014.
I guess
And
we as children tend to do that. We create our
yeah,
own make believe world. We just try to just play those roles.
but we were like college kids doing that. So if anybody else saw us doing that, they would have, for that time, for that era, I should say, we would have been like judged like from 5 feet away, like, oh my god, what are these kids doing? But anyway, that's when I came across Critical Role because they were literally just starting out with their campaign one, and I didn't get into it at all because their streams were like 4 hours long. And later on, when campaign three started, that's when I rediscovered D&D, and I thought, oh my god, that's what we were doing all those years ago. And that's when like I went fully into TTRPGs, just exploring. Yeah, I guess that's my background or my uh how would you put it, way into D&D or RPGs in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is amazing. But about how we got into TTRPGs, I think that would
Hmm.
be better if we explain first before what Infinite Tavern is, because that actually ties into my whole backstory part. So yeah, I think it all started with me being a massive Lord of the Rings geek. I mean, I have
You
my
gotta
entire
be.
collection of books. Yeah, I mean, we are all geeks, but yeah, I'm a Lord of the Rings geek in particular. Uh, yeah, I've been watching Lord of the Rings almost every single year. I think I do two or three rewatches every year just
Damn,
to,
two or three.
it used to be worse.
Nice.
I used to do four or five or even six sometimes. But yeah,
It's like my
uh,
Wheel of Time reread every couple of years.
I did try Wheel of Time. I really, really tried. I really tried. That's all I can say.
That's fine.
But coming back to this, I've watched shows, Big Bang Theory and Community,
Mhm.
which introduced me to uh, the just the concept of D&D. But most of my friends, they were not exactly interested to play, or rather, I would say they didn't know much about this game. So yeah, I tried so many times to learn it through other to find other people who played it in my college itself. But there was just one person, but no, I didn't get an invite into their private server. Sad.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, I'm not going to name them. Uh, in case just in case they're listening. That's all. But
No worries.
yeah, after this whole ordeal, I think during this whole lockdown, I was just bored and I just thought, let me just do this myself. And I just, started looking into multiple resources. I found Critical Role. I found many other good resources that could explain what D&D is, how it is played, and all of that. And I got those friends who didn't know much about it, just to play. I wanted to see what the game is about. And unlike others who start out playing, I started out as a DM, and it was hard. It was really hard because first of all, I didn't know many of the mechanics, and one more, I thought that only the DM rolled dices, the dice. Wow. I thought only the DM rolled dice. I don't know why I
Oh,
did that. But yeah, so after that whole thing, I found this app called Clubhouse. I found this app called Clubhouse, where I
yeah.
met a few Harry Potter fans. And me being, this new to D&D person, I started looking, talking about D&D in those communities. It's just an app where you can talk
Yeah, yeah.
to
I remember the
strangers. Yeah.
clubhouse. I remember the clubhouse
The
craze.
Yeah, the Clubhouse fad was a lot in the 2020, 2021 phase.
Yeah, it just like blew up
And
and then
it just blew up, and then it's completely quiet for now, as of now, for some reason.
yeah.
But it did plenty of good to me. I
Mhm.
got some really serious players about this. We finished the Lost Mines of Andover campaign, and we got
Damn.
into one homebrew campaign. And that was literally when I thought Dungeons and Dragons was literally going into dungeons and killing dragons. And I
Uh-huh.
used to put up five level 5 characters against a CR 17 Balor.
Oh, damn. That's
And I got them to win.
okay. We'll discuss
Yeah,
that another time.
we'll
Yeah.
discuss that.
I,
We'll discuss that
yeah.
another time because I'm sure you're curious about that. But yeah, after that, I thought let's just stop that campaign and start run another module, just because I need to learn more about DMing. And just when I was about to do that, one of my players, he introduced me to Daisies and Dragons. So Daisies and Dragons is one of the biggest. TTRPG communities in India.
Yeah.
And I got into that. I started running a lot of games. I gained a reputation that I run like an insane amount of games.
Uh-huh.
And I ran another mini campaign set in the Critical Role world in Exandria with
Mm-hmm.
a good friend of mine. We were co-DMs, and
Really?
during this, yeah, we were like alternating the DMing sessions. We came up with the
Oh, okay.
stories together. Man was a magician with words. He was really good with it. Right now, he runs his own Exandrian Odyssey West March.
Right, right.
Yeah. So we thought, why not create another community? Just so that, I could run my games easily, just be free. And yeah, I started the Infinite Tavern. Started with just inviting my regular players into it. And after that, the Infinite Tavern just grew. Right now it's at 300, more than 300 members, and it's still growing and couldn't be happier.
Crazy. How did you come up with the name for Infinite Tavern?
The Infinite Tavern name was actually his idea. So what we thought was about. So we were doing some kind of, I think, text based RP in the
Uh-huh.
Exandrian game that we were running, and we had this one particular tavern that could be accessed from any plane of existence, called the Infinite Tavern, and
Oh.
uh, and we really liked that name. That I asked him, and I just yoinked it, and I had another really good player of mine design the logo for me, which is actually
Mm-hmm.
tattooed on me as well. And
Oh,
yeah,
really?
so
That
the
is
yeah
amazing.
we have the D&D, the D20 symbol, the wireframe of a D20 with 20 written in Elvish. So which is like basically a representation of my love for both Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons.
That's cool.
And yeah, the Infinite Tavern was set up, and then I got introduced to other TTRPGs like Call of Cthulhu, then Kids on Bikes after watching Mentopolis.
Mm-hmm.
And I created my own TTRPG, which I'll talk about a little later. And yes, that's how the Infinite Tavern was born. And recently I thought, I talk about Dungeons and Dragons and other games a lot. Why not just put it in a podcast and have others listen to it? That's how it was born.
I discovered Infinite Tavern through an like literally just scouring the web for an Indian D&D
Hmm.
community because I discovered or rather rediscovered D&D in 2021, and it was so and I wasn't a Discord user at that point. I mean, I was a Discord user, but I didn't know how Discord worked. So for me personally, it was very difficult to find someone in India who would run games or play with me or DM me um, as a player, because I didn't know the first thing about DM. I knew I was fascinated by what Matt Mercer does, and that's something I want to do. But I didn't know how to do that, so I just wanted to be on the other side. I managed to find some D&D portals which was based in US from Discord servers. Sorry, I played a few games there. Again, had to wake up at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m., 5 a.m. just to be able to play that, which
Yeah,
was so damn crazy. Yeah,
timing was
that
always
was
an issue with the others when they are on the other side of the world. Timing is always an issue for us.
exactly. I started just YouTubing D&D India, Dungeons and Dragons India, and all, and I discovered Panic Knot. Thankfully, via Panic Knot, I discovered TPK, the Pigeon Killers. That's another huge community over here. And through them, I discovered Desis and Dragons. And through Desis and Dragons, I discovered Infinite Tavern. And like the Infinite
I
Tavern has been like my final home.
I think your entry to the Infinite Tavern was a game that I ran, right? The
Yeah.
Mind Flayer time loop,
Ex-
the Groundhog Day
Yeah.
game.
Yep. Yep. So for the Infinite Tavern, I was a lurker for a while. Like I just used to see what games are going out there, what people are playing, how many people are playing. But yeah, I didn't go to the other servers for some reason. Infinite Tavern being then a very small community relative to now, it made me feel a bit more safe for some reason. If that makes sense, being a
Yeah,
more small.
absolutely makes sense. A smaller community, you have people very familiar faces all around you. So just feels a little like home there.
When I looked at other more established servers, for me that was a bit intimidating. It's like, hey, I just need someone to run a very beginner friendly thing for me, someone who can dumb it down for me, and I can, just get into it finally in the Indian community. So yeah, that's why like Infinite Tavern like made me use it. Plus, I loved the name for some reason. Like, I other names are cool, but the Infinite Tavern just has that. It's I feel like, do you know about Doctor Who?
I did hear about it. I did watch a
So
few episodes.
so
Couldn't
I
get
feel
to
like
watch.
the Infinite Tavern is the TARDIS. Well,
Huh,
that's the vibe it gave me. Like
interesting.
the name itself, like it's a TARDIS for TTRPG. That's the vibe it gave me, and that's why I immediately felt at home. Even though like it when I joined, it was at a very fledgling stage. I mean, it's growing, and I think even in the new years, a lot of new people joined.
Yeah, I am running a game in a few hours, so I did get a few people
Nice.
inside into it. Uh, but yeah, I mean, ever since no, joined Daisies and Dragons, I have been running a crazy amount of games. I think I even gained a reputation for myself for being
Yeah.
the guy. I was called the guy who runs a lot of games. Like
Huh.
everywhere I go, they were like, "You're
Oh,
Anurag, you
Anurag, he's the guy who runs a he runs a lot of games.
exactly, yeah, exactly. But I mean, it was really fun. I came up with the craziest of ideas. I, I mean, I had the time loop. It's tough to remember on the nose right now, but still, there were a bunch of crazy ideas that I tried. Pacific Rim based game once.
Okay.
Yeah, a Pacific Rim and Mortal Engines. Yeah, Mortal Engines, the one with the the cities on wheels. Uh,
Oh,
I
right.
combined them both and try to run a game on that. I did a playtest for vertical cities and vertical based combats in D&D.
Amazing. Uh,
But yeah,
I wanted
what you were
to,
saying?
yeah, I wanted to know, because you were there with Desis for a long while and you ran a lot of games. What did you feel, but in general, what did you feel when you tried to explain TTRPGs to other like newbies or who had no idea? Especially like them coming again from an Indian perspective, the most amount of RP that we do in board games is while we're playing Monopoly.
That
I
is
mean,
true.
that's
That
where
is
I
true.
come from.
I mean, RP based games are very less, in India, from what I know. And when I first tried to get a few people into Dungeons and Dragons, they thought it was a computer game. They thought it was an online game,
Yeah.
video game, kind of like what Baldur's Gate is right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I explained to them that it involves a lot of role playing, it involves a lot of math, involves a lot of acting. Yeah, they just showed themselves right out after that. I guess it comes from the whole thing about being a little bit self-conscious. I guess, but so TTRPGs are gaining popularity in India. From these, there are these shows that are coming up. Stranger Things. I think it
Mm-hmm.
widely. I think it introduced, not even introduced. I think it boosted the popularity of Dungeons and Dragons to another level.
Yeah.
The villains are named after major villains in D&D. The
Yep.
What was that? The Demogorgon,
Mind player.
Mind
Mind player.
Flayer, a very popular villain, and even Vecna.
Yeah.
And you have the D&D movie that came out last year.
Yeah. It wasn't that popular in India, but while watching it, like it felt like a classic fantasy movie, and I like whoever watched it, they enjoyed it.
I mean, I did go to a theater. People from the Infinite Tavern itself. We booked around
Hmm.
13 tickets, Bangalore,
Nice.
and we went to the movie. And you'd be surprised, there were a lot of people who were Stranger Things fans who came in to watch the movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and the D&D and other TTRPGs, they are gaining a lot of popularity among board game players, among many other fantasy fans, and even other there are I mean, TTRPG is not only fantasy, right? You have cyberpunk, sci-fi,
Mhm.
you have Star Wars. Almost every single pop culture has a TTRPG as of now.
Even
You
Lord of the
go on to
Rings.
the even Lord of the Things actually has two of them, and I've actually run one of the systems. I mean, it is based on D&D itself and a little bit complex, but still fun. It is a little bit fun. But what I'm trying to say is, you would find a TTRPG for anything that you are passionate about. There's, you want One Piece, there's a TTRPG for that. You want Naruto, there's one for that. There, you want Witcher, you have that one as well.
Even Wheel of
And if you
Time.
don't have one, even Wheel of Time, and if you don't have one, there are people who are constantly creating new TTRPGs and testing them out.
Yeah.
Most of them I know are from India itself.
Oh wow. Yeah, I saw a couple of, including you, a few people making their own gaming systems. Like I know about Bludgeon. Uh,
I did hear about Bludgeon. I really want to play that once, but yeah, I did hear about it in
yeah,
basis.
yeah, and what I usually felt was, I mean, one of the other reasons for people just shying away from exploring TTRPGs, whatever. It doesn't have to be any heavy mechanics based. It can be rules light as well, but it still for them felt like a high bar of entry for them.
Mm.
You know, role playing, character creation, math, figuring out
Yes,
moves. But
D&D does have a steep learning curve.
yeah,
Especially with the amount of rules that you need to learn. I mean, lore is not exactly necessary for your first game. I mean, the
yeah,
lore is only for the people who are actually interested. When you're running a homebrew game, the lore is just what the DM gives you. When it comes to rules, yes, D&D does have a bit of complexity to the learning of the rules. I think the one that is easier is Call of Cthulhu with just a D100 and rolling it. It has a very small learning curve.
hmm
And yeah, I mean, there are people who love horror who get into it.
yeah. Even I found when I was running Candela Obscura, although in the beginning they were confused by how many dices we roll, what it does, etc. And when I explained to them, just roll the number of dice I tell you and choose the highest one, like everything eventually fell into place. So even with old school revival games like Dungeon
Hmm.
Crawl Classics, try saying it 5 times in a row fast. You won't be
Dungeon
able
Crawl
to.
Crack. Yeah. Yeah, even the first time is
Exactly.
tough. Yeah.
Exactly. So games like that I find were way easier because how should I put it, as making the bar low for entry. Instead of having so many stat blocks of strength, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, charisma, all of that, constitution, you just combine some of them and put it into like three or four of them, and so that makes it like a bit easier for them. Like, and that's what I found out, especially with people. I ran a game for a couple of not for a couple of people, for 4 5 people, a one shot, and I used the D20 system, used D&D, but I just removed, or not removed, I just combined some stat blocks, and that for them was way easier for them to understand. And when I explained that, okay, what the actual division are for attributes and skills and abilities, they were like, hey man, if you would have given us that, we probably would have, our minds would have turned away from that in the first 5 minutes itself.
I think when it comes to beginners, right, mnemonics are the best way to explain very tough things. For example, what are
Mhm.
the primary stats in D&D?
Primary stats, you mean strength?
Abilities. You have strength, you have constitution, you have dexterity, you have
Yeah,
intelligence, wisdom, and charisma.
yeah.
Now, what I usually do when explaining it to others, I saw this on Reddit. Think of a tomato.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to crush a tomato, that's your strength. The
Uh-huh.
ability to dodge a tomato or just throw a tomato, that's your dexterity.
Next.
The ability to digest a rotten tomato, that's your constitution.
Constitution.
Knowing a tomato is a fruit is your intelligence.
Intelligence.
Knowing a
Knowing
tomato is
not
a fruit and not putting it in a fruit salad,
fruit
that's
salad is
wisdom.
wisdom.
That's wisdom. That's wisdom. And selling a rotten tomato for 5 gold pieces, that's
That's charisma.
charisma.
Okay,
That's
that's
as simple as it can get.
that's a pretty good way of explaining it, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, as simple as you can explain it, it does get complex as you keep moving through
Mhm.
levels. But I guess as you play it, you just start getting a hold of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old thing. Like, once you do something enough times, you will get better at it. Once you play chess enough times, you will get better at it. Once you play a video game like Skyrim and everything, it's just about going through the motions and playing it. With TTRPGs in general, that's gonna be the same thing. You won't be a good player in the first game, and that's fine.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, in my first game as a player, I played a half-orc druid. At level 5, I went alone and challenged an Oni. And you know how powerful Onis are.
Yeah.
Long story short, I got decimated. I had to, turn into a spider and just run away from that, just to save my character. And
Damn.
yeah, I mean, I'm not a good player even now. I mean, I played very few games actually. Even the next two, three games that I played, every single one of them, my character died
Oh
some or the
damn.
other way. And one time it was heroic. My character, she was protecting the others, and she had to sacrifice herself.
Mhm.
But the other times, it was just my stupidity.
Uh, See, that's the thing for me as well. So, not actually, it's the opposite. Sometimes I tend to play it too safe, but as a DM, I am not safe at all. Uh,
Hmm.
I guess that's my playing style. I'm really not a good player because, again, that harkens back to the fact that I don't know how actors act. I mean, nobody. I mean, as a player, you don't have to know how actors act. I mean, that's a sort of a not a misconception. That's a false expectation that Critical Role has put out. That you have to be as good as them to be real, to be to be a great D&D player, or to be
Hmm.
have that much of fun, which is not true. I just don't know how they do it. I don't care how they do it. They can do it however they want, but I know that I'm going to be a way better DM role playing my world rather than me role playing a character.
Yeah, and at that point, I think Matt Mercer set a standard for everyone as a DM.
Yeah, I mean, I had fallen into that trap. I'm so glad I
uh,
got out of it.
Yeah, but yeah, I am really glad I got out of it because I cannot do proper voices for. But after that, I did find other DMs. There's Brian Murphy and Brennan Lee Mulligan. A really good friend of mine recommended all of these to me, and I just binged most of their content. I mean, there is a lot to go, and I'm binging as much as I can at any given
Yeah.
moment. But still, there is a lot to go. And things I noticed about Brennan's and Murph's DMing style, they're a lot different from what Matt does. Matt, I feel, is more like he does employ the rule of cool, but still, he does keep the rules in mind as the story goes on, and he's amazing with his world building
Yeah.
because most of the world that I created, Axel Dawn, it's inspired a lot. It's inspired from
Exandria.
Exandria. Exandria.
He paints a picture, man.
He paints a picture exactly. But and when it comes to Brennan, right? He is really good with his RP part.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets his players to RP a lot. I've seen his fantasy high very recently, and
Uh-huh.
I absolutely loved the way he was DMing. And I'm learning a lot from that. It's more of a case study for me than just
Uh-huh.
watching it. And not only that, Murph is really good with his encounters. The kind of fights he
Hmm.
has in his campaign. He has only three players, but still, that those fights are just amazing. Even got a lot of inspiration from that. I've implemented most a lot of that from in my campaigns as well. I learn a lot from every single content that I take, become a kind of a running gag at this point, for a few of my friends.
Uh-huh.
I watch a movie, they ask me if I found anything that could be used in my daily game. And for most of the movies, even for a rom-com, I do find some elements that I could include in my games.
Oh,
That's
really?
how that's literally how my DMing thing works. I was playing Baldur's Gate recently, and I was literally describing my characters' actions and what they see as a DM in my mind. Even while watching the D&D movie, rewatching the D&D movie, I was doing the
Uh-huh.
same. While the characters are going through this maze, I was just thinking all of that in my mind as a DM. You walk through the space, you look to the other side, you see this mimic attacking the other contestant, you see a displacer beast that seems to be projecting another
Mm-hmm.
image of itself. It's it's just some kind of,
Roll me a
it's
perception check.
kind of like another little DM just sitting in the back of my head.
Yeah. Oh man, that's cool.
It's cool
Uh,
sometimes. I know it's funny sometimes actually. The kind of things that I come up with just on a whim. It's funny at time.
I mean, for me, it's like whenever I'm watching a series or a movie, uh, eh, whenever there's a fumble or a fudge or a botch on the character's part, I'm like, that dude rolled a nat one, man. And
Yeah,
my partner who's ever watching it, he's like, what the hell are you talking about?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do that as well. A lot of times. I even try to compare them to my real life situations as well. Like I convince someone to do things out of their way. I just say that I rolled a nat 20 on persuasion. People don't understand it, but yeah, I don't care at this point. They know that I'm into D&D, and they would just get it at some point.
Eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
Oh man.
Even,
Yeah, eventually. And that's what the point that I was eventually gonna meander to. What do you think is going to be the future of TTRPGs in general in India? And how do you think it will grow? Because right now it's mostly among the English speaking crowd, those who are exposed to what's going on the other side of the world with regards to gaming and things like that, because they get the news, because they consume content from there.
I mean, there are a lot of growing TTRPGs in India. I've met people who are creating D&D games based on Indian mythology, and even during some
Uh-huh.
of the festivals, I try to come up with something. Just as kind of a tiny tradition. We run Christmas special games. Why not Diwali special games?
Yeah, I was part of
And
one.
and yeah, it just happens like that. And you create TTRPG content for in Hindi.
Yeah,
I
I
met
do.
another person who was translating the official books into Hindi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I did. He also, I think he put up a few of his notes in the Infinite Tavern as well.
Oh man, I got to know who's that person. I want to connect with them.
They did translate a lot of their notes into Hindi. Now that I, joined Desis and Dragons, I spent 3 years in there. I started noticing a lot of artists around.
Yeah.
I've never known that there are such good fantasy artists, and I guess it's just growing at this point. And I really hope for some kind of Comic Con panel in the future, at least
Oh
dedicated to
yeah.
D&D.
Yes, because if not even D&D or maybe TTRPGs in general, maybe some other TTRPG even. Maybe Critical Role will finally, look towards India and come here. Which
Absolutely,
doesn't look likely. But anyway, yeah, with regards to Comic Con, even very little is done in the way of TTRPGs.
it is.
I mean, it's almost non-existent. I would say it's not that I've been to a lot of Comic Cons.
I have
Yeah.
been to one Comic Con. Last year, I've been to the Bangalore Comic Con, and
Hmm.
I did see Keelith actually. One of the cosplayers was cosplaying Keelith.
Oh wow.
But I
Yeah.
don't know if that person is a D&D fan or was a fan of the animated show Vox Machina,
Yeah.
because it was really popular. It was a huge hit.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
show is really well done.
It is. It is, man. I mean, it's
It
crazy
is
that it's an animated show right now.
exactly, and they are making the second campaign on Sing as well. So I'm really waiting for that
Yeah, Mighty
because
Nine.
yeah, Mighty Nine exactly. I'm saying TTRPGs are growing in India. There are a lot of Indian-based TTRPGs. There are a lot of indie games that are coming up, and yeah, really think no, no, the future looks good for TTRPGs in India at this point. People are getting more and more creative.
Yeah, and it comes back to the old adage, more the merrier.
Yeah, the more the merrier, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, now that we talk about you do run. You said you were a proper DM, right? So what are the games that you are interested in? Like, what kind of games do you run usually?
Um, with regards to TTRPG, I don't run D&D as much as I used to earlier.
Hmm.
I'm more in the exploratory phase where I'm just figuring out what kind of TTRPGs are out there and what would fit my DMing style. So definitely, Candela Obscura was a welcome find because that is Candela Obscura is a fiction first RPG rather than a mechanics first, and I felt that helped me way more in being, coming from a very filmmaking background. That helped me make sure that the story is told in the way that I'm able to tell, most effectively. I mean, that's the sentence I would go for. D&D is there as well. I'm rather more inspired by Abria Iyengar's way of DMing. Iyengar and Spencer Stark, both, because both of them come from a sort of a cinematic background, and both of them have a very different way of storytelling. But I just pick and choose like the best thing which fits me, and I just try to make it my own. And currently I'm just exploring very rules light system. So Candle Obscura is there, Blades in the Dark is there. There's a music based RPG called Velvet Generation, which I'm really looking forward to get into. There is again an old school system called Dolmenwood, which is a fairy tale based, like a old Grimm's fairy tale based sort of campaign setting. That again, that I backed on Kickstarter, and that I'm looking forward to actually running a long term campaign in that this year. Once it comes out, I'm gonna do a proper campaign, probably like 30-40 sessions at least. So that's something I'm looking forward to. And with regards to how I DM, I try to make sure I don't. If it's a one shot, it can go into up to 4 hours. But if it's a campaign, I try to restrict it to 2.5 hours, just for my ease and for the players' ease, and just for the longevity of it, so that I don't burn myself out every week, every day, just planning a session which is gonna run for so long.
Yeah, I mean, my usually my campaigns are like 4 hours. They go up to 4 hours usually. Not usually. Sometimes, 3 hours, 3.5 hours is usually the cap. But sometimes, with combat, you know how long combat takes in D&D. It just goes a little
Yeah.
extra.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm running three campaigns right now. So one in Icewind Dale, which is almost at its end, and I
Uh-huh.
do have two other campaigns set in my homebrew world. So one is run on Wednesdays and the one on Tuesday. Sorry, Fridays. So Friday one is
Okay.
going really well, and I'm actually going bonkers with the whole world building part. They're literally in a place where cities move around on the backs of massive gorillas.
Oh
But
damn.
yeah, and the Wednesday campaign, it's a little more serious than the Friday one. The tone is a little more serious. It's set at a very high level, at level 8. And yeah, but I'm having a lot of help with that. Because yeah, it is a little tougher to run that particular campaign because of the story that is set and because of the backstories that the players have. But it is really fun, and with the help, I have a friend of mine is she is doing a great job helping me out with the coming up with the stories and all of that.
That's cool.
I just try to run a lot of wacky games at times with one shots, but when it comes to
Mhm.
campaigns, I try to set that whole started out at a place that basically the ones where players go up to heroic levels. Like it
Got it.
ends with an epic scale of battles and all of that, and I love those kind of campaigns because about D&D, right? The RP part actually caught me first, and then the massive worlds that you could
Same.
literally create at the tip of your hands. something that really caught me. And yeah, I'm glad it never let me go.
I wish that, I mean, I hope that it wasn't going to be a fad for me, because that was one of my fears, because I had gotten into a lot of things and I had fallen out of love with a lot of things, and I just hoped that D&D and TTRPGs in general was something that is going to stick around for me for for my entire life. And yeah, and I
Hmm.
hope like the others who we bring and others who come here who talk about TTRPGs in this podcast, I mean, it stays for their entire life as well, because there are going to be people here who are going to come and talk their own stories.
But what are we planning though for this podcast moving forward?
For this
What do you have in mind?
podcast, what I had in mind was to not just explore the different players and what their relationships are with TTRPGs, to tell not just their opinions on TTRPGs, but their stories themselves. It was also to talk about the state of affairs with TTRPGs in India and how it can grow and how it is growing. Not to be, like the voice of TTRPGs in India, but if this can be a cog, or if this can be a gear in the engine of TTRPGs moving forward in India, then we gotta do it, because if nobody else is doing it, then somebody has to.
True, true. Because when I tried to get into D&D, I had literally no one to teach me the ropes of it. So I'm thinking, this could actually help a lot of, beginners to at least get interested in the game, to try to start finding out more about it.
Exactly. And after that, it can be like a rabbit hole that one can go
It is,
into. It can be like a
it is definitely a
spiral.
rabbit hole.
It was certainly for me, because once I started, I was like, okay, what else is there? There is so much material. There's literally and there's going to be an endless supply. As long as TTRPGs exist, there's going to be endless supply of material, and you can't exhaust it. That's what I feel. You can't exhaust the rules. This is the final rules, because somebody will come out with, hey, these are some extra rules, some homebrew rules that you can use, which might work for some people, might not work for some people, but hey, they are there. You can't exhaust everything in this. It's literally a universe,
True, true.
and there's so much there to explore.
But yeah, moving forward, yeah, we will be getting a lot of guests. We do have a really good lineup planned. And other than that, we'll be talking more about D&D, or the worlds that both of us are working on. I do remember you telling me about the world that you are working on, and I have my own
Yeah,
world that is almost done. The maps are being created as we speak, and yeah, we will be talking about them. We'll be talking about other gaming styles, RPing, and a lot of that. We'll be getting some really good guests for that. We will be playing games. So if anyone of our listeners is a fan of NatPod, not another D&D podcast done by Brian Murphy, and he does run campaigns on that with 3 players. So yes, we will be trying to do that as well. We will be playing mini campaigns here, not campaigns. I am already running 3 campaigns. I really cannot try to run one more. Uh, it's really tiring. But yeah, we will. I will definitely try to run something, a very small one, maybe 3 episodes or 4 episodes on this one. It goes well. But yeah, this is a start to the Infinite Tavern podcast series.
we hope you stick around.
But yeah, I guess all right, guys. So I guess this is the end of the episode, and we will be posting a link in the descriptions to our link tree, as well as in our Instagram as well. The Infinite Tavern podcast is how you can find it. And once you find it, in the link tree, you will be finding links to Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and a few more podcast sites where you can listen to this. And you will also find a Discord link, an invite to our very own home, the Infinite Tavern. I hope I see you there. And yeah, I guess this is it. May your dice keep ever rolling. I'll see you
Nat
guys next
20s.
week. Nat 20s.